Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about what the reaction was whenever I was diagnosed with PTSD, as far as my reaction and of course as far as like people around me's reaction whenever I told, because I think that's something that's not talked about a lot. And if you've ever been diagnosed with something and you weren't aware that you were going to be diagnosed with something, it's kind of shocking. And then also because you tell people because you're like, oh my god, this thing, this actually is something. And whenever you actually tell people, people's reaction sometimes can be less than great, I guess we'll say. So I thought it'd be not really fun, but I thought it would be maybe helpful to talk about that with you guys and just kind of like let you know my experience. So that's what we're gonna do. And obviously I'm walking around my house, so I'm gonna find a place to sit. So let's start from, I guess, the beginning. So I was diagnosed actually in 2018 with PTSD. Looking back, I know I had it for quite a while, but I didn't go to a doctor. The only reason I ended up going to a doctor is because of the stuff that was going on in my life that was causing me PTSD had gotten so extreme that basically I felt like I was gonna go crazy if I didn't go find some help and figure out something. I mean, it was just really, really bad stuff. So whenever I did go to a doctor, I had been seeing her for a few months and we had never really talked about a diagnosis. I was actually doing one of those things. It was the BetterHelp app is what I had done at first because I didn't have a lot of money. And that app, if you're not familiar with it, they do charge a sliding scale for payment. And because I was in a financially abusive situation, I didn't have money of my own. So being able to get that, I think it was like $40 a month or something, which to me was still a lot of money. But at the same time, it was way less than going to a regular doctor would have been. So I did that. And then at one point, much later after seeing her, I'd asked her about a diagnosis, if she could do that, because they're kind of not, I don't feel like supposed to do that, but I asked her. And so she did. She wrote me a diagnosis form. I actually needed that for a court thing that it was a court situation with my stuff. So anyway, so she did. She filled out the paperwork that the Victims Advocate Group District Attorney Office had asked for. And I don't know that she was supposed to even do that according to the BetterHelp stuff, but I so appreciate that she did. But I didn't know that I had PTSD because we had not talked about it. And so whenever I saw it written there, I was, kind of in shock, just because to have it labeled like that and just all of a sudden it's just blunt on a piece of paper. So that was kind of interesting, I guess, to process. And so that was the first time. I've been diagnosed 3 times, by the way, because I've gone to different doctors, because I actually went to like a actual physical doctor after that had happened. Am I okay? Thank you. Am I okay? Yeah. Uh-oh, sometimes when she starts licking, it's not gonna fare well for me. Hopefully I'm okay. Anyway, so that was the first time I was diagnosed. And at that point I was shocked, like I said. I guess part of me was shocked because I didn't know that you could get PTSD from the stuff that I had been through. So, looking back on the whole BetterHelp app thing, I kind of feel like maybe there was the ball dropped at that point because no one told me about that. Like no one said, hey, by the way, I think you have PTSD. Let's look at these options, and see what that would mean for you and maybe do a little test or something. So anyway, I don't know. All of that to say I was surprised whenever I was diagnosed with PTSD. And whenever you're surprised by something like that, typically, depending I guess on how you are as a person, but for me, obviously you guys know I'm a talker. So for me, whenever I found out, I called a very close friend and I was like, oh my god, dude, guess what? Oh my god. And I was like completely just blown away, because then I had got some information, I guess, about it and about like what that would mean and stuff. And the response wasn't the attitude I got whenever I was telling certain people. It was kind of like, let's deal with it. You're weak, kind of, and it was kind of like that response is what I kind of felt like I was getting from some people. Not everyone, but just some people in my life were like, you know, basically get over it. You're not the only person who's experienced bad things. If you've been diagnosed with anything, you know, and you've shared with people, you know the response you get from some people is just like, whoa, like, you know, you were not expecting that kind of response. You're expecting someone to actually be like, oh my God, and like talk to you and be cool about it. So that was a little bit unsettling and upsetting. I did get a good response actually from my mom though. My mom was super supportive. She was like, I mean, I think at the point, like no one close to me, we really knew what to do with that diagnosis, but it still was like a supportive, you know, type thing. I don't remember her words exactly, but I do remember it was very supportive. And my dad's always supportive too, so I know his reaction was supportive. I don't particularly remember his reaction, but I know that it was supportive just because that's how he is as a person. My whole family, to my knowledge, has been really supportive, and like, I just think a lot of people didn't know what to do with it and kind of don't know what to say, you know. That's one thing too, is that people a lot of times don't know what to say to you whenever you come out and you're like, you know, hey, big medical news, whatever, you know, I have PTSD, or I'm sure with other things that are medical things. But a lot of times people don't know what to do with you. They don't know what to say. They don't know how they should react. It catches people off guard. And so some people kind of don't say much, or either they kind of like, oh, wow, you know, and that's kind of it, which is fine, because I'm not looking for anyone to like coddle me about it. But the people that really, really bothered me with all of this was people who literally said I need to get over it, or were just hateful about it and like, well, you're really sensitive and stuff. It's like, no. I went through a really bad experience. I went through years and years of abuse, and it ended with, you know, guns being pulled and stuff. Of course I have PTSD, but I didn't know you could get PTSD from that kind of stuff. So that's the other thing too. Whenever I was diagnosed originally, I didn't know you could get PTSD from anything but war. And whenever I was told that I had PTSD, of course, then I started looking it up, and it's like, whoa, you know, yeah, you can get PTSD from a lot of stuff. Any type of thing that's a very scary situation that you've been in, it can cause PTSD. And I wasn't aware of that until I got diagnosed. And then I started looking at resources, things like trauma bonding, stuff like that. So definitely, if you're a person who is in an abusive situation and you're like, oh my God, you know, I don't know, I feel like I can't leave, you know, whatever, all the things that you feel whenever you're in that, look up trauma bonding, because that will be an eye-opener for you. So then I was diagnosed again because of basically after the court stuff started up. We have something called a victim advocate, and what they do is they try to find you medical care, things like that, if you've been a victim of a crime. And so luckily there was a person who worked with them, a therapist who worked with them, who was super awesome. And they only dealt with PTSD stuff, whether it was from abuse or war or whatever. So I started going to that person, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. So I can't speak highly enough about seeking out therapy if you have been diagnosed with PTSD, or if you've been in an abusive situation and you just feel like you need therapy. Probably anything that you need therapy for, I definitely recommend it. But whenever I went to see this person, they actually had like legit tests to run, and it wasn't just it sounds like you have PTSD. He actually had real, like legit real tests to run. I feel like working with him was awesome. You know, that was one of the best moves that I could have made, and I would have not done that on my own. The district attorney victim advocate group, they really, I don't want to say they pushed you. They didn't push you. What they did was they actually gave you resources, and they were like, hey, because you've been a victim of a crime, if you need this help, you know, these are a list of resources. Don't feel ashamed that you need help. Don't feel like if you can't afford it, you know, or whatever, obviously we help you with that too. So there were a lot of things that they did that were really awesome, because I feel like a lot of times whenever you're in a situation like that, you kind of are almost ashamed, because you're like, how could I let this happen? Depending on what's happened to you. But for me, because mine was a domestic violence thing, it kind of was almost a shameful thing. Like, then you felt like you were telling on your husband, and it was just not a good thing all around. So there was a lot of shame, and then there was a lot of trauma, and then there was a lot of bad stuff in between there that was just like, you know, all kinds of feelings that need to be processed. If you're a person who's watching this and you haven't gotten help for your trauma, definitely consider that, you know, by going to some type of a talk therapy or whatever type of therapy you need. It's gonna help you to at least hit a plateau and not get worse, probably. But there's a really good chance you could get somewhat better too. And I'm not saying this next part to scare anyone, but generally whenever you're diagnosed with something like PTSD, it's a lifelong thing. So you're not gonna necessarily it's not something you really recover from. But what happens is, like for me in my experience, let's say I was having 6 bad days a week. Now I'll have like 3. So, and sometimes it's less than that. Sometimes it's 1 bad day a week. Sometimes though, it's like 17 bad days in a row. So, you know, it kind of ebbs and flows, and that is just part of it. That's part of mental health stuff in general. But without seeing my doctor and having diagnosis and having like tools and programs in place to like actually, you know, I kind of know how to handle it now. It's never gonna go away. I'm gonna deal with this the rest of my life. I know, okay, if I'm feeling this way, these are the things I can kind of do to try to feel better, or to try to, you know, at least get kind of back to an okay place. Also, of course, I have therapy, so she helps me, you know, she helps me a ton in so many ways. And so we'll go over her task at some point too. I'm not gonna go into that today because this is already a long video. I hope this has been helpful for some people. Someone actually had asked me if I would make a video on reactions from people and like how that was for me. And if you're a person watching this and you are watching this because you know someone who says they have PTSD and you kind of don't know what to say to them, you know, you don't necessarily have to say anything. Just be supportive. You don't have to give your opinion. You don't have to tell someone what you think about it. Like, you don't have to have the words to say. People, you know, people with mental health stuff, whenever, personally, I'm gonna speak for myself here, I shouldn't say everyone, but personally for me, if I'm telling someone something about my mental health, I don't expect someone to have answers for me. I'm telling them because of I need to tell them for either maybe I've acted a certain way. For example, something scared me recently and I told someone that I had PTSD. Because of my reaction, I know my reaction was extreme in how I acted because something scared me. And so because of that, I kind of felt like I needed to justify like the reason that I got so terrified was because of my PTSD. And by telling them that, it just made me feel better, just so that they don't think, either they might not understand PTSD, which is fine, but also at least if they kind of have a little bit of an understanding, they understand why my reaction was so extreme. A lot of times people tell you stuff just for themselves. They're not telling you because they want you to react. People are telling you because generally they are surprised by it, or they just need to talk. So, you know, my advice for someone who's sitting here watching this who doesn't have PTSD but just knows someone who's confided in them that they do, you don't have to have an answer. You can just listen and be a friend. You don't need an opinion. You don't have to tell anyone anything. about how you feel about it. You can just sit there and be a listening ear and be a friend. If you do want to say something, you know, you can say, how can I support you through this? Or is there anything I can do for you? Whatever. I can pretty much bet most people are going to tell you, no, I just want to tell someone, or I just felt like I want to tell you because of whatever. It's usually just a freeing thing for the person telling. Therapy is obviously a huge help to me as a person with PTSD. So probably if you're watching this, you probably are here because of the service dog aspect. But if for some reason you're not and you're having trouble with treatment options and stuff like that, and things just aren't working for you, and you are an animal person and you would be okay with having that, check into that, because that has been the most helpful thing at all for me. That has been like a huge help. So I'm gonna link some videos around for you guys. This one's gonna be my strange PTSD symptoms. This is gonna be some more mental health stuff, and you guys can subscribe over here if you want to. And I hope this is helpful, and I will see you soon.